Thank you for joining us for Playground to Prom. So one of the goals for today is to learn how to start a conversation with your teen about sexual health and making those conversations positive so that he or she will be open to having the conversation. By the end of our program today, we hope that you have the confidence to start those difficult conversations, and that you can think of teachable moments to where you can have that opportunity. And then also so that maybe you will think about having at least one conversation with your child about sexual health.
Hi guys, so I am going to share my screen with you so that you can see kind of what we are talking about. But I have some statewide statistics that we're going to talk about that have specifically to do with pregnancy rates and things that affect sexual health for the state of New Mexico. And then we're going to talk about some local stats for drug use and some other things that are from students here in Carlsbad. Okay guys, so I'm going to talk to you about some statistics for the state of New Mexico. These are just a couple years old, but they're for the state as a whole, as far as pregnancy, birth rates, things like that. So what I want you to do is to look at the questions on the screen. We're going to kind of read through them. The bottom lists several numbers. The idea is that each number fits in one of the blanks above. And so as I read these, I just want you to kind of think in your head what you think the answers might be. You're welcome to jot it down on a piece of paper if you want to. And then we will look at the actual answers. So number one, every how many minutes is a baby born to a New Mexico teen, or total number of babies born? That, again, that should say New Mexico, not Colorado. That was a typo when they created this pamphlet. Teens every day. So how many babies do you think are born to a New Mexico teen on a daily basis? And then how many minutes does that correlate to how often one is born? The second one, what percentage of high school seniors are sexually active compared to the percentage of ninth graders that are sexually active? So those options below, kind of what do you think the high school senior rate is, and then what do you think it is when they're coming into high school? So we're looking at them entering high school and then leaving. How much do we think that changes? Number three, approximately what percentage of New Mexico parents support education on human sexuality or STIs? Number four, New Mexico ranks where in the US for its teen pregnancy rate? So that would be a number between 1 and 50. 1 would be the lowest rate in the US, 50 would be the highest rate in the US, just so you know how those numbers work. Number five, New Mexico's teen birth rate has dropped by how much since 2013? And then how much do you think it's dropped since 1991? Number six, what percentage of teens say that parents influence their decisions about sex more than friends? So that first percentage is what percentage of teens do you think answered my parents influence the most? That last one is how many do you think said that my friends influence the most? Obviously it's saying the parents is higher, but how do they compare? Number seven, blank out of 10 teens say that it would be much easier for them to postpone sex and avoid pregnancy if they were able to have more open, honest conversations about these topics with their parents. So hopefully you were able to kind of plug in some of those numbers from down below, and then we'll go on to discuss what those answers actually are. I know these numbers continue, but number 8 correlates to number 1. So every 290 minutes, a baby is born to a New Mexico teenager, which translates to 7 babies per day are born to a teenager in New Mexico. Kind of crazy when you look at those numbers. The second one is 44% of high school seniors are sexually active. So while that's higher than we would probably like to see that number, it is still telling us that over half of our high school seniors are not sexually active. So that's a positive spin on that stat. While 13% of ninth graders are sexually active. So you can definitely see that those high school years, that number definitely jumps. And so we need to make sure that they are being educated and having conversations before they're going into high school, because as you're seeing, 13% of ninth graders are sexually active. So we need to make sure that we are hitting them with this information in middle school Unfortunately, we do have middle schoolers that are sexually active. I mean, I know we've had 5th and 6th graders in programs that have been sexually active. So it's definitely needs to be talked about early. The third one is New Mexico ranks 50th in the US for its teen pregnancy rate. So we have jumped around in that number between 47 and 50th for as long as I've been doing this, and I think for probably the last 10 or 15 years at least. So we consistently are the worst or one of the worst as far as our teen pregnancy rates. Our rates are very high. So it's definitely concerning. New Mexico's teen birth rate has dropped by 13% since 2013 and 51% since 1991. And so although our rates are high, it's definitely come down, and those numbers have gone down nationwide. A lot of that is believed to be attributed to the fact that it is something that is talked about more now. It's education that is in schools and churches and homes and from several different areas for youth. And so they are getting education earlier. Those rates are coming down, but they're definitely higher than we would like them to be. 47% of teens say that parents influence their decisions about sex more than their friends. So about half of teens are saying that their parents are the most influential in their decision making about this. So that's super important, because a lot of times we think that our youth don't want to talk about these things because they're awkward, and you're probably right, but it doesn't change the fact that they care what you think, and they're basing a lot of their decisions on the messages that they're getting from you. So that's why it's super important, and why we're going to talk about having those conversations, even if they are uncomfortable for you and your teenager, they're still super important to have. And as much as they, want to give the whole la 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 not listening type thing, they really are, and they really care what you think. And so it's important that you have those conversations. Only 22% said that their friends influence them more than their parents. And so the reason that's important is that 47%, even though you think, oh, well, it's only half of the teens say that, but that's the largest parameter for sure. 22% said friends. And then after that, I believe it's, they listen to what the media says and things like that, and they're smaller percentages. So the two biggest influences are the parents and then their friends. And it's the reason that we encourage you to talk early, before they're being faced with these things, hopefully before a lot of their friends are being faced with these things, is because they're going to judge whatever they hear first, or whatever they hear second against what they hear first. And so if they hear a message from you, they understand what your feelings are, what's important to you, what your expectations for them are, and you give them facts, and they're going to judge what they hear from their friends and from the media and all these other sources against what you have told them first. So you want to be the first influence in their life in these categories. And our last one is 9 out of 10 teens say that it would be much easier for them to postpone sex and avoid pregnancy if they were able to have more open, honest conversations about these topics with their parents. 9 out of 10. So they understand that it's important. They want to have those conversations, but it's not easy for them to do. They're probably not going to initiate those conversations. And so we have to make sure that we are willing to initiate those. And then when they do come to us with things, that we react properly. And we're going to talk about that some more in just a few minutes. Now I'm going to move on to, these are local statistics. Every year we do surveys in the schools with every middle school and high school student. Generally we do Carlsbad and Loving, that includes JMA as well. And they do these anonymous surveys where we go into the schools, they get a link, and they fill out these surveys without any fear of repercussions. And it's just so that we get a better idea of what they're facing. We use these in grant writing. We discuss them with the schools so they understand what's going on with our youth and how they can navigate those. We share them publicly. They're all on our website. So you can go to carlsbadcoalition.com and you can see the survey results from the last few years. And then we also share these with the police department so they know, can share it with our SROs and officers that are in the schools. So it's great information, and the students are pretty honest because they're not worried about what you're thinking or getting in trouble. They know it's just kind of finding out what's going on around them. So this first one is e-cigarettes, alcohol, and marijuana. those are the top 3 substances that our youth are facing. Middle school and high school both, those are the top 3. You can see the dark blue areas are the high school numbers and the light blue are the middle school numbers. So definitely those rates are higher in high school, but our middle schoolers are using, and those numbers kind of go up and down, but they've stayed pretty close over the last few years, with the exception of e-cigarettes that have been on the rise over the last few years. So that's kind of an idea of the things that they are facing, the things that they're seeing. With e-cigarettes being 39% and alcohol, 34%, drinking 33%, it's definitely certain that whether or not your child is using these substances, they definitely know somebody who is. They will be exposed to it or know someone that has been in contact with it during their high school career. So even if you think, oh, not my baby, my child would never do this, they're going to have a friend or an acquaintance that is faced with this if they're not themselves. So it's important that they know how to handle that personally, and then also, how to refer their friends and fellow students that they may come into contact with that may be struggling with these things. The next one is e-cigarette use. Like I said, it's definitely been on the rise the most over the last several years. We started measuring this in 2018, where we see a huge jump there from 10% up to 21%, more than doubled between 2018 and 2019, and then continued to rise the next year as well. We don't have stats for this year just because of the COVID shutdown. So next year we will hopefully be doing these surveys again and find out where we are at that point. We do see a lot of correlation between the use of substances and mental health. So these are some numbers that we have examined over the last couple of years. We used to not ask about mental health factors, but more and more we see how mental health is related to substance abuse. And so we wanted to be able to track that, and then to be able to help our community figure out how to help these youth that are facing these things. So these are 2019 numbers versus 2020 numbers. 31% in 2019, 34.6% in 2020 said that they had felt sad or hopeless. Then around 22% said that they had seriously considered suicide. And then between 12 and 14% said that they had actually attempted suicide. Those numbers are alarming in and of themselves. But when you look at the breakdown of how many students that actually represents, a lot of times we can look at a percentage and think, oh, 12% of students isn't that high. Although we don't want any students attempting suicide, obviously. It really hits home a little bit more when you look at those actual numbers. So in middle school, we had 278 students in 2020 that said that they had seriously considered suicide. And of those 278, we had 183 that said that they had actually attempted suicide. In high school, those numbers are very similar. We had 299 that said that they had seriously considered suicide, and 151 that said that they had actually attempted suicide. Obviously, that's very alarming, and there's a lot of people in our community that are working on these mental health issues. We know that the pandemic has not helped those issues. There's a lot of isolation and hopelessness that's tied to that. And so it's important that we're checking on our teenagers that are in our lives. Adolescence is not easy, no matter when you go through it. But especially now, we want to make sure that we are checking in on them and making sure that they know that they're loved and cared for, and that they do have resources available if they find themselves in these situations. This last slide just kind of shows you how these different drugs relate to mental health concerns. The first one is whether or not they've used marijuana in the last 30 days. And so these are, of the students that said they felt sad or hopeless, 33% said yes, they had used marijuana in the last 30 days. 39.7% said that they had used marijuana and seriously considered suicide. And then 47% of the ones that said that they had attempted suicide had used marijuana. So we definitely see a correlation between substance abuse and higher numbers there. It looks very similar for drinking and then e-cigarette use as well. So youth that are experiencing depression or hopelessness are more likely to abuse substances, and those substances are not likely to help those situations, but they actually make that roller coaster that they're on of highs and lows even worse. And so it definitely leads to more concerning factors. This last page here is our recommendations. These are things that our evaluators have come up with, saying that based on your stats, these are things that we think that you should do to help them succeed. And so make sure that you have clear rules about what youth can and cannot do at school and at home. And so the schools are working on that, on having clear rules there, but it's important that you have clear rules for your youth in your home and what is expected of them when they're outside of your home. Support programs, teachers, students, and staff who strive to make school the safest and best part of each student's day. We have an amazing school system in Carlsbad. We have educators that truly care. We have the administration is very concerned about the entire student, not just their education, but their mental health as well. And so we're blessed to have that, and they are making huge efforts to make improvements in those areas. It's important to encourage students to think about going to college or technical school after they graduate. The whole idea is for them to have something that they are working towards. And so if college isn't for them, maybe a technical school that teaches them a skill or a career that they're wanting to go into. It's just important that they have a goal for their future and there's something to work towards. The hard times are a little easier to handle whenever we have something that we're working towards. It's true for us as adults, it's true for youth, it's true for everyone. It's important that you tell students that you believe in them. They should be hearing that from every aspect of their life, from their teachers, their coaches, their parents. It's important that they know that people believe in them, that they know that they can succeed, and that increases their chances of success when they believe in themselves. Show interest in your students' schoolwork. Make sure that they're keeping up with their assignments, that they're not getting behind, that especially when you have younger ones, that when they're excited to come tell you about something new that they learned, that you engage with that and that you learn with them or have them teach you about it. When they see that you're interested in what they're learning, they're more eager to learn as well. And then encourage students to pursue their interests and get involved in drama, debate, art, music, math, sports, whatever it is that they're interested in, that they are just doing something. I know that's super hard right now with everything being shut down, but there's ways that even when you're stuck at home right now during the pandemic, that you can do things to learn about your skill, or interact with them about their skill, look at things online, figure out ways for them to be active and not closed up in their room, isolated. Alone with your thoughts is a dangerous place to be a lot of times. And so make sure that they're getting out and they're active with your family, with loved ones and friends, as much as you feel is safe and correct for your family, and that they just have something, that a light part of their life, that everything isn't just schoolwork and serious business. They need to have fun, they need to relax, they need to unwind, just like we do as adults. And the last thing is give students opportunities to use their skills and recognize them for trying. So if there's something that they're interested in, look for ways that they can use those skills, that they can learn something new and then apply it, and make sure that you're encouraging them to keep getting better and to keep improving, and that, again, you just let them know that you believe in them. So those are some things that we just feel like are super important and have shown to increase student success across the board, and not just in school, but in their general lives as well. We're raising productive, happy humans is our goal, right? So we want to make sure that we're helping them as a all-around individual and not just solely focused on one area. Now I will hand it back to Julie, who's going to talk about some teachable moments.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. We are going to talk about teachable moments in this section. So teachable moments could be anything, any opportunity that presents itself throughout your day. These opportunities that can be used to maybe start a conversation with your teen about difficult topics. For example, a teachable moment could be you sitting in front of the TV watching a movie with your teen when there is a section of the movie that comes on that might be drug or alcohol related. There might be some drug use, or there might be some drinking and partying going on. Taking the moment to pause and to talk to your teen about what they're seeing and how they feel about it, asking them what their thoughts are, and maybe starting that conversation using that teachable moment. I'm gonna, Sarah, would you like to share with us maybe an example of a teachable moment?
Oh, absolutely. You're sitting down together at the dinner table, and they mention a story of a friend of theirs that is going out and drinking and bragging about it at school. That's a really good opportunity to sit down and talk to them about, well, have they pressured you into doing the same thing? Do you feel like you have to do the same thing? And starting that conversation, that open dialogue.
So it is very important to think about things throughout the day or moments throughout the day where we could use teachable moments, and so that we could start the conversations on those difficult topics with with the teens in our lives. Let's talk about positive responses. It is very important to make sure that once you are in that conversation with your teen, that you have a positive response. Making sure that you are going to be able to make suggestions such as, that's a good question, or this is interesting, let's talk about this more. Making sure that you keep that positive reaction so that you can continue those conversations, and leave that open for them to want to come back and have those conversations with you. So we're going to move into going into a role play. I'm going to let Miss Tiffany, she's going to lead us into a role play with some of our members.
Great. So we have Samantha and Hannah that are our coworkers that have volunteered. We typically have parents volunteer to do these role plays just as an example of how conversations can go. So they are going to do that for us today. I want you to just pay attention to what the youth says, what the parent says, what the reactions are like. Do you feel like a teachable moment was used? Do you feel like the parent responded well? Do you feel like that youth is likely to come back and have that conversation again? Or what could have been done differently, or what was done well? And so we're going to go through it real quick with them, and I'm just going to let them take over.
Rosa, what were you and Carmen talking and giggling about at Mass today?
Oh, nothing much.
That was a lot of talking about nothing. You kept looking at Julia's sister and her family. Is something wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. Julia's sister's just going to have a baby, that's all.
Just going to have a baby? Nothing wrong? That's all? Rosa Marie, that's nothing to giggle and talk about.
What's the big deal? It happens all the time. Besides, everyone knows about it. She's still going to church and school and work. What difference does it make? Did you get pregnant before you married?
We're not talking about me right now. What do you mean, what's the big deal? What difference does it make? It does make a difference, a big difference. If you ever come home giving me that kind of news, there will be trouble.
Mom, don't worry. That's not ever going to happen to me.
I sure hope not.
All right, thanks, guys. So these dramatic skits are kind of funny to, walk through, but they're just, loose examples of conversations that you might could have. Maybe your conversation with your kid would go totally different, but it's an idea of, this youth brought up something that was happening, or I guess the mom brought it up. So Sarah's going to volunteer as our parent audience. And so, Sarah, what do you think about how that went? Do you feel like it was handled well, or what could be handled differently? Give us an idea of.
I'm surprised at Samantha's acting skills. She did such a great job. I got that she was being super judgy, and I know it's hard to not immediately go there, especially because it's family and you feel comfortable doing that with your family. But that can make the other person feel like, I don't want to be judged by my mother. I don't want to be in that position in the future, but I also don't feel comfortable ever talking to her about it again. So you're kind of losing out on that opportunity for a conversation. And that's the whole point of having the conversations.
Absolutely. Great points. Thank you. It is super important that, a lot of times, as a parent myself, I can say my kids will tell me something and it does surprise me. And I'm like, what? But I have a choice in that moment of, am I going to react in a way that's going to shut them down and wish they'd never said anything to me? Or can I react in a way that I could teach them something and show them that they can have these conversations with me, that I can handle it as an adult, and I can handle a rational conversation and teach them how to have a rational conversation at the same time. And then hopefully, we can teach them something besides that better not ever happen to you, or else type of thing. So, all right, they're going to go through it one more time. This one's going to go a little bit differently, a little more lengthy, but hopefully a little better on round 2 as far as how mom reacts to the situation. So take it away, ladies.
Rosa, what were you and Carmen talking and giggling about during Mass today?
Oh, nothing much.
That was a lot of talking about nothing. You kept looking at Julia's sister and her family. Is something wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. Julia's sister's just going to have a baby, that's all.
Well, that is big news, but what was all the giggling and talking about?
We were wondering how much longer she would be able to wear that belly shirt. Everyone knows she's pregnant. It's no big deal. She still comes to church, goes to school, and work. You got pregnant before you got married, didn't you?
Rosa, tell me what you want to do once you graduate from high school.
Mom, I want to go to college, I want to be a lawyer, and of course, I want to get married and have a family.
I already knew the answer to that, but I never get tired of hearing you tell me your dreams, and I like the order you put them in.
What do you mean?
You put college first, lawyer second, and married and family third. What if you put the family first? What would be different?
College and law school might take longer.
It would? Why?
Because I would have to work and take care of a baby. Then I might not do as well, because it would be harder to study.
Do you think Julia's sister will be able to finish school?
Well, she has already missed a lot of days because she was tired from working and couldn't get up in time for school. And the baby is due in February, so she will miss more school then.
I think instead of giggling and talking in church, you and Carmen might consider praying that Julia will have the strength to take care of a baby and finish school.
I guess we weren't thinking about how hard it will be for her.
Yes, it will be hard. I know from experience. If I had known better, I would have done better. I was blessed with a wonderful family and lucky to be able to go back to school last year. But it's a struggle. It would have been easier if I had known how to put things in an order that worked best for me.
Don't worry, Mom. That is what I'm going to do.
I am sure you will. You are smart. You are a smart young woman, and remember, this experienced old mom of yours is always willing to listen and to help.
Great. So I'm sure that you can all tell from that conversation that it definitely went a whole lot better. So Sarah, what are some highlights that you can point out from that conversation?
So yeah, I really enjoyed that she used her personal experience to drive home the point that she was trying to get at, and also asking a lot of open-ended questions about what Rosa or Hannah's opinion was on the situation. There were a lot of positives there, so it's hard to list all of them out, but it just felt a lot more open. And at the end of the conversation, I felt like Hannah would come back and have another conversation, which is the whole point.
Right. Super key right there. So that's the whole idea, is that, your youth feels that they have an open door to come and talk to you about things. Mom didn't blow up on her. Mom didn't, when she said, well, I mean, you got pregnant before you were married, not the whole, and that's not me. We're not talking about me response. It's more of, let me explain to you why that could have been done a little bit easier. She didn't knock single mothers. She didn't say that if you have a baby, it's the end of the world and you're never going to accomplish anything, right? We're not doing like drastic polar opposites there. She was just saying, you know what, this is what I did, and this is what would have made that easier. And so she had her think in her own terms of, think about your goals. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And how would this make it harder? In the classes that we do with youth, we do a lot of prevention programs, and that's always our goal. Is it's not to say if you mess up, your life's over, right? We're not scaring you away from, drugs, alcohol, things like that, but we're teaching you what they can do to your life and then how they can derail your goals. Doesn't mean that if someone goes out and get drunk at a party that they can't be a lawyer someday, right? That kids are smart. They're not going to fall for that anyway. They're just going to think, well, you're not going to listen to anything you say at that point, right? So I want to give them realistic expectations and let them know that, you know, this behavior leads to this effect on your life. And so let's do what we can to make your goals the easiest to accomplish. And so we want them to know that they can overcome obstacles and barriers, but that success is something that they can attain. And let's tell them how to do it the best way possible, easiest way possible. We don't have to make our lives harder. There's plenty of things that make life hard. So that's kind of the idea behind these role plays and the teachable moments, is just that you use a situation instead of, you know, blowing up on your kid or giving them a lecture. Let's have a conversation. Let's make sure that they know that they can talk about these things, and that as a parent or family member or whoever you are to these youth that are in your life, that you can interact with them in a positive way, and that they can walk away from the conversation feeling like they learned something, and feeling like they're welcome to go back and ask more questions. And it's always great too, once you have one of those moments, then, you know, give them some time. You know that youth better than we do, but maybe they need a couple hours, maybe they need a couple days, a week, but revisit that later. You know, how's the situation going with your friend? You know, what have you done to help this friend? It's important that we teach them to be a positive influence in their relationships. And so continue that conversation. Don't just make it a one and done and you never touch it again because you checked that box and, oh, we've talked about teen pregnancy now. But it's a conversation that you continue to have, whether it's drugs, alcohol, their goals, anything in their life, that you keep that door open so that they know it's an ongoing conversation. I think with that, I will hand it back to Julie to finish us up.
Thank you everyone for participating in today's presentation. I hope that you were able to take something from the presentation today that you can use. I would like for you to take the time to maybe go in and complete the survey. And if you receive this presentation in an email, you will be able to go to the survey using the link that is in the email. If you are viewing this video in the Parents in Action, the link will be added to the post. Please take the time to do this. It is very helpful. We use it to find information. We use it to gather information on what is good and what changes we can make. This information is also used for our grant funding, and it shows that we have done the presentation and parents have participated. Thank you.